On this week's episode of Forward Progress, I sit down with Brian Collins, O-line coach at Catawba College. We talk a little bit about recruiting and the transfer portal, coaching at different levels, how he runs his room, and his thoughts on how to turn a program around. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What's up, Brian, man? Thanks for coming on today. How's everything going with you, man? How are things down in the Carolinas?
Good. I mean, a little drizzly today. Thanks for having me.
A little
But
drizzly.
albeit we were able to golf a little bit in January, so I can't complain. We got spring break next week, finishing up installs and stuff like that for that. So yeah, better weather than up north, man. I've been in the Midwest
Actually,
for
I was driving around yesterday and we got into the 60s up here in
I
Kenosha,
heard
and I drove by and there are some psychos out there on the golf course, and it looked like packed. Like there was dudes on every hole, and I'm like, what is wrong with these lunatics? The grass
car
is like
path only. Yeah.
it's all brown. It's not even like they don't even have flags in the holes. They're just hitting in the air. It's
Just
wild.
putting from halfway out. Just like
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever. I'm
Ground's
out here.
hard.
Yeah, just happy to be out in the sun because we haven't seen
Get
it
out of the
in
house.
15 days. So,
No, yeah, it's
so
it's 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 good down here, man. Like I said, I enjoyed Kenosha,
yeah.
but the weather's tough to beat, especially when being from the West Coast. Just enjoy the sunshine. We get a month of like cold here, and then we're out of it. So
Yeah.
not
So you
hateful.
guys are full into off-season swing. Are you guys done with your recruiting class? Are you still doing anything currently? Because obviously it
So
was a little different when you were here at
yeah,
Carthage, because that D3 life's a little different. Where are
yeah,
you
yeah.
guys at?
So we filled up on signing day with all of our scholarships and things like that. Having a couple other visits, like spot visits here and there. We had one other big visit after signing day for any guys that were left out. But yeah, it's just been spot here and there. Guys who were coming around or local guys or what have you. But I think there's been a couple. But I mean, like I told you, we grinded it out in January. We did visits Monday through Saturday, the whole month. So, yeah, we got after it. It was
So
it
for
was
those
terrible.
visits, were you tried to just do individualized, just one or two guys a day, or
Yeah.
how
So
did
for each
did you have
visit,
any big visits like that, or was it all pretty small?
yeah, they were all small. I mean, I think we had the most we ever had was like 10, 12 guys. I know me personally. So way we do it is once we get done with our area, it's up to position coach's final rank, and pass it through the head coach and coordinator and everything like that. And then once that happens, basically we all set a line of demarcation of like anyone above this line is good enough to visit, you know.
Yeah,
And all of them, especially D2, all of them have varying scholarship levels attached to them in our minds. But then it was like, all right, get them to visit, get them to apply, get them through the whole process, because then, we'll package once we get everything in, then we know what we can give them or what we're willing to give them scholarship level wise. So for me personally, I mean, offensive line wise, we're in a little bit of a weird spot where we graduated one. We're going to graduate one more next year. But then the year after that, we have like 8 in that class. So
oh,
went a little heavier in this class, just thinking year to develop. If a guy breaks in, great. But mainly, when I'm sitting here in the room with guys and they're like, how many seniors do you have? It's like, I have one. The real important thing is I have, 10 upperclassmen. So,
right.
and
Any
as
transfers
everyone,
that you brought in?
yeah, we have 3 transfers in. One we brought in coming into the fall, but had to get back eligible. So, just took the fall and did work there, and then 2 more at midyear. So brought those guys in just to try and supplement, like I said, kind of even out some of those levels too. So I said one guy's 3 years, one guy has 1/2 years, depending. So
How have you guys been? How has it been navigating that for you guys? Because obviously, you know, with the transfer portal and everything that's changed over the past few years, it's so much harder to like you got to re-recruit your guys every single year. Did you have to did you have to sit down with each guy and make sure they weren't leaving? Like how was that experience for you guys? How much is it hurting D2 or affecting D2? I mean, I feel like it's transferring all the way down. But at least you have scholarships to work with. So how do you have to navigate the portal and all
yeah.
that sort of stuff?
Um it's a little different. I think maybe we were partially helped by being, going from 1-10 to 5-6. It's not like, we're fine. We're fine. Pretty okay all across the board, right? Um, all the guys I think started enjoying the culture change and stuff like that. So is really, yeah, in all of our exit meetings, hey, you coming back? Cool. Like I think a lot of it might happen after spring, maybe once guys figure out where they stand on the depth chart, especially
Mm,
since we brought in, I mean, across the team, we brought in like 6 mid-year guys, nothing crazy. We're not trying to live and die by the portal, but also, this is a year-to-year business where, yeah, you have to plan for the future, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for winning next year, every year, right? So,
right.
um, it's kind of that delicate balance of the process is the process. We have a 3, 4, 5 year plus plan here to win because we think we can. But then how do we maximize those wins given the current roster? We have a little bit of scholarship money here, there. Coach Haynes does a good job, I think, divvying that stuff up and having a plan for us how we can, when we're getting done with the season or we get done with the spring ball, it's okay, do your exit meetings. We kind of know where guys stands. Now we can attack the transfer market, so as far as how that goes, I mean, it's year round, and you can access the transfer portal year round and pull from that. Obviously, you can use different softwares, and there's different companies popping up. It seems like every week where they're like, we can help expedite, getting you all their information or pulling from high school information or whatever to get you as much information. Because on the portal itself is, name, email, whether or not they want to be contacted, where they're at in the process, has their tracer gone through, whatever it is. And so to get like cell phone in actual position and, maybe even years of eligibility and different stuff like that, sometimes it's helpful to have those companies help you out with that kind of stuff. Right. So,
Right.
um, I would just check that every day and pull from it. And essentially you go and follow or reach out to every single person who hits the portal because you never know the situation they're in or who's going to reach out or like, oh, my mom lives in Charlotte. So it's, this and that, you never know. Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if they're across the coast. I follow just about everyone just to gauge interest and kind of keep tabs on everyone in that portal. So it's,
So are you guys jumping? Are you guys looking at transfers first once the season's done before you really target the high schools? Or are you guys doing that together? Because I know I talked to some coaches at higher levels, and for them it was as soon as their season got done, they weren't even on the road. Like they weren't getting to high schools until January because for them it was we're hitting transfer portal right after the season because we got these guys leaving, we got to fill these needs, et cetera, et cetera. Are you
mm-hmm.
guys in the same boat, or do you guys have to kind of balance both at the same time?
You balance both, but we definitely went on the road right away, just knowing that, yeah, the portal window doesn't necessarily apply to lower levels and people can enter in whenever if they're walk on grad, special circumstance, stuff like that.
Right.
Um, but we knew, especially obviously we're Division II, like people are gonna, the D1s are gonna take swings and stuff like that. Cause yeah, I was on guys early and then all of a sudden insert FBS school comes in. D3 transfers, D2 transfers, whatever. Like their FBS schools came calling, and these guys were genuinely interested in coming to a Division II school, and all of a sudden popped, right? So
Yeah.
great, and I told them great for them. So that's a part of it too. Is you just keep taking swings and seeing where guys fall a little bit too in that whole process. Because then, yeah, once we started our December visits, we had a weekend in December where we really wanted to focus on transfers with
Mm.
that. So once guys, it was in the middle of the month because then we knew like, yeah, if he's willing to visit in the middle of the month and still with us, like he's probably our level, right?
Right.
And we could have brought him whenever we wanted. We were in house here, but yeah, we did 2 weeks on the road right away. So just again, because I think high school guys for us come first because I think especially with I think there's a lot of good high school talent that's getting left out there, and part of it's COVID year, which will go away here soon, and
Yeah.
part of it's the transfer portal stuff like that. But there's definitely, especially 2 years ago, a logjam of older guys that when I was at Western, where it's like, hey, we have guys who can take a COVID year now. So like, how do we attack this now? Because everyone essentially we put a stop on our stuff right now. We
Yeah.
could come back with the same team and bring nobody back essentially if everyone stayed. So, um, there's definitely a logjam for high school players. I think there's a lot of really, really good high school players out there. So we definitely attacked that first.
Do you
Yeah,
think you're able to get some guys that you probably wouldn't have been able to get before the transfer portal now because there's a little bit more of that jam up with those high school kids?
for sure. We had guys who got dropped by FCS guys at the early signing day, because they signed a transfer. And so we definitely benefited from that. Had at least 3 or 4 offensive linemen who were in that boat. So not all of them came here, but that's just, that was the situation they were in, is that they picked up Division I offers and guys who probably would have blown up, 4 years ago and didn't now, which is good. But then also on the flip side of that, after a couple years here and they're playing, maybe they might end up in the same place and go FCS.
Right.
That's just kind of the situation now where you have that's a part of the business, is you just try and retain those guys for as long as you can.
Yeah. I mean, I heard
And
guys talking at the convention and they basically were like, when they go out and recruit high school kids, and some of these guys were at like 1AA schools or FCS schools or whatever. Now it's still always called 1AA. But they were saying like they'll go out and they'll talk to kids in high school that they know will probably end up going to FBS down the road, and they recruit them almost like, hey, we're going to be a transition school for you, almost like a JUCO, like come here for 1 or 2 years, do really well, and then you'll have a chance to go up. You'll probably have a chance to get an FBS scholarship or something like that. So hearing some of those guys talk about that, it's crazy because it's really changed the
yeah,
whole recruiting game, and completely the approach you have to take is so different now.
for sure. And that's, I think it depends on your geography. If you have a lot of JUCOs in the area and you're competing against them, or we definitely have. I've heard of schools that we compete against and we get the same question. And I'm never gonna push that with guys. I think it's just a byproduct of having successes. Sometimes that's going to happen. I'm never going to plan on only having guys for 2 years, especially I think in the
Right.
offensive line, like, it's still Malcolm Gladwell, we're chasing 10,000 reps with everything that we do. It's tough to do that in 2 years and then lose a guy
Right.
after 1 year of starting. So,
Right. Especially at that
I
position. I mean, I
yeah,
feel if there's like, I feel if there's any position it where experience is so important, it's that O line. I mean, freshmen coming in, they ain't ready to play O line. I mean, quarterback's probably the next position where just from a mental standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, developing O linemen, you can't, if you're playing with a bunch of young guys, you're not going to be very good. So being able to keep those guys and develop them is a huge deal.
yeah, no, I mean, I told all the guys, I feel like everyone like Googles what to ask a college coach on a visit, and they ask like, how many seniors do you have? Or like, what are my
Mm-hmm.
chances of playing early and this and that? And I'm like, honestly, man, not great. And frankly, if you're in the top 5, great. Like you're playing. I'm not sitting here and like, again, I'm not planning on, it'd be really good if I could have them for that extra year. So 5 years from now, we're really good. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I'd play you if you're in the top 5, but fact of the matter is, knowing from experience, I went out there as a redshirt freshman and you're getting tossed around. It's just not fun,
Yeah.
especially when you're in a really good conference too. Like we see some absolute werewolves at defensive line in this conference. So, I want to give guys the time to develop, because I think also a big part of it is having confidence when you're stepping on the field too. So if you put a guy out there and he's just getting blasted, and it's like, it's even that much harder than to build up the confidence to go along with the technique and stuff like that, so you can execute your job, right? So,
Yeah. Right.
that's a huge point of emphasis for us this spring, is just mentally getting to that point where you master our playbook, and first 2 installs, man, and master that, and you got most of the playbook down. So then you can play as fast and physically as you can. And
Yeah.
you're asking an 18-year-old to go up against 23 and 24-year-olds, like just doing that guy a disservice
Right.
at the end of the day, because he's used to going up against, that's why I love O-line and D-line highlights in high school when they're just crushing 170-pound defensive ends. It's like, yeah, enjoy it, man. You're never going to see
Right.
it again.
Yeah. Right.
I hope you get there, but it takes time.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, yeah, the speed of the game is faster, and also you're in a fist fight every game. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, skill guys get here and they're still backpedaling and running routes and stuff like that. And yeah, there's physicality in their positions too, but O-line, D-line, you're in a fist fight every play. So,
Right. You're
You want
going
to be
up
as
against
physically
men.
ready.
You're going up against
Men.
dudes that have been
If,
training their bodies year round for
yeah, they have children
three,
and
4 years.
401ks. And,
Right.
yeah, there's
Especially
just,
nowadays. There's like eighth year seniors coming in,
yeah,
coming back to college this year. I'm like, what is happening right now?
yeah, I mean, just absolute men. So, um,
What's your
yeah,
ideal number in the O line room? Like, what do you like to carry? Obviously, travel squad wise, you got to have enough guys for scout team. What do those numbers look like for you?
yeah, for us, I mean, I would love to be around 20-ish,
Yeah.
and that's where, when I was at Western, I think we held 17 or so. And, obviously Carthage, we're pushing 30. And, my first year when we were at
30 for the
Briarcliff,
first month and then 10 for
yeah,
the last four
have
games.
the three amigos walking laps around because they're too fat to go. But, no, but and then you want to, like I said, you want to have enough. When I visited St. Joe, there was 4 offensive linemen for the spring game, and I'm just, yeah, no
Pumas,
doubt,
baby.
go Pumas. But I'm looking at Coach Day like, hey man, you want me to go in? Like I'm on my visit. It's like, let's do it. But yeah, so we travel 10. And then yeah, we do team a little. I mean, I'm sure other people do it like this, obviously, but we don't split up offense and defense and do true like scout team stuff like that. We want to make sure we have good service teams and everything like that. So
Oh, really?
our scout teams will have 2s and 3s on it because offense will go 2s and 3s on defense will be the scout team, and then we flip. Give the offense a little bit of time to recover, but we're going fast, so it's not like
Yeah.
we're just sitting around. And then we can watch the scout team, we can watch the ones. Just leads to a higher product, I think, and more meaningful reps. And I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to everything, but I'm definitely enjoying that side of it where I can get, year one, we had 4 or 5 guys go down this summer before this fall. So then that was just whether it's medical or quitting or whatever it was. All of a sudden, I'm looking at, I think it was like 14 going into this fall, and I'm like, oh
Mm.
crap, what do we? That's not good. So
Yeah, right.
right now we're going into the fall of 23. So I feel good about that. Because you're
Okay.
gonna have attrition stuff like that, but
Yeah.
want to have a good 2 deep. Want to have 10 guys I can put in a football game and feel good, and not less than that. So
Yeah,
we were
right.
lucky last year. We had no injuries. So we got lucky last year in the fall. It was testament to the guys being tough, and strength staff and athletic training staff taking care of them too. But
Right.
yeah, all 5 start all 11 games for us, which is good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you've been there just over a year now, right? You got there
Yeah.
last January or end of
Yeah.
January, somewhere in that
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
frame. Kind of had to hit the ground running. This is interesting. Like for me, I always wonder because in all my years coaching, I never was part of taking over a program with a new head coach where we jumped in January and had to get it rolling. What is that like? I mean, that's got to be just a whirlwind. I remember you talking, you guys were living like 6 guys in a house, just
Yeah.
crammed in there. Like how do you guys handle that? What is the strategy? Like, how do you prioritize the important, like what's important? What do we got to get done right away? What can we push off, a couple weeks or whatever? What's that takeover process look like?
Yes, I mean, first and foremost, obviously you gotta recruit because you get there and signing day is coming up very quickly. So
Right.
we did visits every day, and I mean, my first day there was our first recruiting visit. So we're doing like the tour, and the school tour guide's leading it because outside of the head coach and defense coordinator, like the rest of us were like, oh, okay, that's where that is.
Yeah.
So
You're
we're
taking the
we're
tour.
asking. Yeah, I was taking the tour. So um we got in, we would obviously grind film, and we're putting installs together and everything. I mean, it was just a whirlwind with that. And then we're spending extra time in the mornings going to every lift and every running session to make sure that we're uh getting to know the guys too, because we wanted, that was what we wanted to be around with them with. And we weren't doing install meetings until we were firm in what we were doing. So that
Mm-hmm.
was all the time that we were spending with them was at lift. So we'd get in early, do that, and then spend the day, do the visit in the morning, and then the evening was all watching film and working on getting the guys to come visit. So we'd go and try out all the local cuisine in Salisbury and come back to the house. Like I said, school gave us a house to live in. So we all got our air mattresses and just got after it. So
I feel like that's
um,
got to be a pretty good bonding experience for the staff.
yeah, that's what you find out real quick if you're gonna get along. That's what you're just like, man, I hope I get along with these guys because it's me and another guy splitting a living room right
Yeah,
now.
right.
But no, it was great. We just sat and watched a lot of basketball, a lot of TNT movies, a lot of John Wick,
Oh yeah.
um, and we just like literally go around and find our favorite spots to eat and go. So yeah, a lot of fast food and hibachi and all kinds of garbage being put into us. But also we weren't paying rent and stuff like that. So just
Yeah, that helps.
yeah, it was just football, you know, morning to night and just trying to get a class together. And I think we did a pretty good job getting one together, and same thing being done at signing day, with a little bit of addition after with just trying to get numbers. Cause even from then we didn't have a ton of guys quit or leave or anything like that. We just had to set the standard and hold guys to it and make sure, like I said, GPA was, I told you before this, our GPA was not good when we came in here. So a lot of it was just, hey, make sure you're here on time and go to class, and just turning the culture on that way by trying to make guys do stuff right on and off the field. So that was our full-time job, was just recruiting and making sure guys were doing the right stuff to then, once we hit spring ball, we're leading up to that cool football stuff. We can start hammering that, up
Yeah.
until then, it was all just culture and recruiting.
How far
So
along do you feel the culture is come? I mean, obviously, I imagine it's probably not there. It may not ever be where you want it to be, but you can get how close do you guys, or how close do you as a staff feel your culture is to being where you guys want it to be?
yeah, I mean, it's the right steps. GPA's come up point 0.7, record, gained 4 wins, all that good, the measurables of it, right? But at the end of the day, we're watching the film over and over and over and over, just seeing those kinds of things where, as a coach, you try and not focus on the negatives, right? But you're looking at them a lot. So,
Yeah.
we're great. We made some steps, but also we're winning in the fourth quarter in 2 of our games and lost, right?
Mm,
We were losing in 10 of our 11 games this year, which cool, great. We came back and won some games, but there's one game where we truly felt in control. Luckily, it was our last game, right? So like even week 1 to week 11 last year, we were making strides. So
yeah.
it's definitely something that we're still hammering. We're harping on. Obviously expect great effort from yourself. Make sure your own room is clean before you start pointing out other people's. But make sure you're holding your teammates accountable too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is in our winter conditioning. Coach Malden's doing a great job with those guys, making sure we're starting at a base level, and then it's like, all right, great, we're running hard now. Let's make sure we're doing it correctly and all that kind of stuff. And holding the guys accountable in all our ways. So yeah, it's day in, day out. Like, so you got to be patient with it and just some more stubborn than the guys sometimes, where it's like, yeah, I know how great you guys could be if we all just meet the standard that we're setting, then we can raise it again and raise it again and raise it again. So, offensively, we just had our big offensive unit meeting, going on spring break next week. So we want to get an offensive unit meeting in, just leading into that, because then we're coming back and doing spring ball and just kind of go through
Right.
expectations for every position group. And what we saw in our self scout. We just got, spent a month watching self scout, and what we think, the things we can focus on and really make some strides this spring. Because even last spring, OC got in and we're putting it together and kind of putting the offense together, and all of a sudden we're installing it. So everyone's kind of learning together with that.
Right.
And then we're doing it in the fall, and live bullets are flying. We're playing games, this and that. I think this spring, I think everyone's going to make that leap that you see freshmen make going into their sophomore year. It's going to be the same kind of thing for us as an offense. So I'm pretty, and as a team, but as you know, I don't worry about the defense. Those guys do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Those
You
are
guys
those
do
are
your thing.
a whole lot of not my problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I just work here, man. I got the things I worry about. All right.
Right. Do your job.
You're my problems. Yeah, no doubt. It's the same thing I did as a player. So
Yeah. Right.
easy to translate. And when you just segment your life a little bit, and just when it's time to work, you go, and when it's not, you can, chill out, man. I love chilling out, but just focus on your job. So
For sure. So you've been fortunate in your career. You've actually had an opportunity to kind of coach at a variety of schools. You've been at a D3, a D2, a Division 1, even NAIA. What obviously there's differences amongst all of them. We can talk about those, but what level, what division, whatever you want to call it, which one do you like coaching in the most?
I
Because I know
mean,
like the easy answer, a
yeah,
lot of everyone wants to coach D1, right?
yeah,
But
for sure.
there's a lifestyle to it that is completely different when you're at that D1 level because of that grind, because of that nonstop cycle. So, in your opinion, what's your favorite division to coach at?
Yeah, I mean, right now, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, I coached, I GA'd a Division I school, but that was I left when we were in the middle of COVID, so
Mm-hmm.
that was before the portal and all that madness too. So it's probably gotten even worse, right? From
Right.
all the accounts, from talking to buddies and stuff like that, where it's you're go 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 nonstop. We got done with our bowl game on December 31st, and we're back because the guys are reporting back to school. We're back January 6th, and then going again. So um, it is truly nonstop. We did a good job where we had the fall camp plan in and just kind of preliminary game plan ideas for our first three opponents before we left in July so that we could kind of enjoy July. But even then, that made June terrible because you're going to camps and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, I think it was great. Just to give everyone the background, I started at an NAI school, GA'd there, went to Division I school, GA'd there, and then D3, D2. So going from NAI, where my boss was an ex Division I coach, long time Division I football coach, had a good structure there, going to a Division I school, and then seeing that structure, but with the manpower put behind it was cool, and just seeing how everyone operated there, and just getting what I told people, get a chance to do football school a little bit too, where yeah, we're coaching this and that, but at the end of the day, I wasn't running the room. Was fortunate enough to be given the chance to run drills and stuff like that, and do a lot of forward scouting, whether it was recruiting or opponent stuff like that, and the freedom to kind of make it my own too, which was great. Also getting the chance to be in the box, which I miss every day. Just getting the chance to sit up there, and you're just watching a game. You're truly detached from the game versus O
Yeah.
line. Now, I mean, I'm on the field nonstop. So it was cool to to take a step back and learn that, and just to watch a ton of film, have the access to NFL Division I, whatever film, and just kind of take that in when guys were on the road, and you just get the call and like, hey, what's this guy's mom's name? You're like, this, cool. And then you're on your own for another 2 hours. So I enjoyed that. Obviously left to go and run my own room. And before I did that, because you're the one who hired me. But before I did that, it was like, okay, what of the obviously missed running my own room because I did that at the NAI school. What have the GAs before me done, and where have they gone from the school that I was at? Because that's obviously it correlates a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then you can kind of pick you pick your path between, do you want to be an off the field guy and kind of grind it out? Obviously you can you can get lucky, and if you put the work in and the right guy gets the right job and this and that, yeah, you can get promoted full time depending on the situation. But
Right.
I wanted to get back to running my own room, and obviously looking at offensive line coaches throughout the levels, like you just got to get reps and reps and reps running your own room and seeing every front, stunt, blitz, whatever, so that when whatever's in vogue for the defense coordinators at the time comes back around, you've seen it before, right?
Right.
And so that was my drive to get to a Division III school. Now, when you get there, it's obviously has its challenges with recruiting and stuff like that. Obviously love the area we were in, but love being at the Division II level, man. That's to long story long. I enjoy having scholarships, having still the work-life balance a little bit,
Yeah.
especially because the big dogs get first go, and do a
Right.
lot of, we're not really going to throw offers out until we do our great due diligence, and even then, like I said, I might be limited on spots going into a certain season, and so I'm even that much more picky with who I get to offer now versus D3. You're just like offer, and
Right.
yeah, you get to focus on the guys that you think are better football players and can make your team better. But at the end of the day, your school gives you a directive to fill rosters, and that's
Right.
I can go on for hours and hours about schools and their roster spots and this and that, and each school's, the school you go to matters, because
Yeah,
each
right.
administration has, the lower you go, each administration has that much more to do with it sometimes, so
For sure. I've
um
always felt that I always felt like the D2 life is the sweet spot because the Division 1, and like you said, when I was at the Division 1 schools, it was before the portal, and it was still crazy. It was still the recruiting workload and the time commitment throughout the year was still pretty intense, and that was before NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff. So yeah, like you said, I'm sure it's even crazier now. And then yeah, the D3 level, the D3 model is, I mean, you're recruiting through June for the same class because you can't get them to sign NILs or anything like that. So it's just nonstop. You're focusing on the one class where D2, because you have that scholarship, you're still signing pretty much a majority of your class by that February signing day. And then you do get that little break because the guys that you're probably looking to bring in the next class, they're probably not too interested right now in talking to D2 schools because the guys you really want are probably getting interest from FCS schools, maybe FBS schools, and then as they get through summer camps and things like that, and they don't get those scholarships, now they start looking around for other options, and then that's where you guys can come in and really get the guys that you want. So now during this time, you actually get that breather space at the D2 level that I don't think you ever get at D3 or that you ever get at the D1 level because of that nonstop. D1 finishes their signing day, they're already on next year's class. D3 doesn't really have a signing date, so to speak, because kids can come and go as they please. They got to get that deposit into the school, and even that's not a binding contract. So you're just recruiting your butt off just to make sure those guys get to camp in August. So that D2 lifestyle to me was always that sweet spot. It was that area where it's like you could have a good work-life balance, still coach competitive ball because you got scholarships, but you're not sitting there grinding every single day throughout the entire year on that recruiting cycle. You do get to get that breather and kind of recharge those batteries a little bit.
yeah, for sure, that's what we're doing right now. So just, like I said, watching self scout and doing preliminary, like, hey, send us your 25s and this and that, and we'll go out in April and May and get after it again. Like I said, I encourage guys. I get it. Being from California, you kind of know D1s and JUCOs, right? Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there were some D2s. I know there's one now, but a lot, some D3s, this and that, but it's really, as I say, lack of a better term, D1 or bust, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I get it. I tell you, yeah, chase it, man. Go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you get that, great. I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously you have more resources depending on the school sometimes, because even then, like, sometimes D2s have better resources, and FCS versus FBS can be the same thing, right? It
Yeah.
all depends on the situation. So I encourage guys, do your research. There's tons of stuff that I wish I knew as a player when I was going through high school. My parents were not football players. My high school coaches were not college players in the last 20 years. So it was like kind of figuring out for myself, and honestly got lucky, found a great school, loved my time there and everything like that. But there's definitely stuff that I encourage guys, like, do your homework a little bit. I tell you, like, I'll give you the information on my school. I'm obviously biased. I work here, but
Yeah.
I don't think I need to sell it. I think we got great resources, great support, and the future's bright. So it makes my life easier. And if you see the same thing, great. Let's get it. But at the end of the day, you want guys to feel comfortable with their decision. So yeah, I enjoy this schedule because, like I said, we will be busy April, May, June, getting all of our evals and camps and stuff like that done. And then through the fall, just kind of touching base and checking in on guys. And then, we have guys who blow up their, in senior year and have a great senior year, and the senior eval gets them a Division 1 scholarship, stuff like that. But then at the same time, I think the majority of the guys that we signed at the end of the day were guys that we had been on throughout the entirety of fall. I can, except
Right.
for one offensive lineman, who came in late. The rest of them were guys that we were aware of, so I think that's where you just got to put yourself in a good situation as a Division 2 school where you've done your homework, you're reaching out to guys, doing your due diligence, and then you're scholarship situation, kind of where you're at with that. You can zero in on targets with that stuff. But then, like I said, once we're done with signing day, it's done.
Right.
We have a little bit more with transfers, in December and once we hit the summer. But even then, it can depend on your room and what the need is there. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully for me, I'm not doing that this summer, but never know. So you
Yeah.
just
Right.
gotta do your due diligence and um, keep tabs on guys a little bit. So
Nice. Now you talk about you guys kind of going back a little bit. You were talking about how you're turning things around there. You've actually been around a couple places where you've been at some programs that didn't have a lot of success when you got there, and you had to be a part of turning it around. One was as a player, obviously. You guys were able to turn that around pretty damn well in your time there. What and then some of the places you've coached, you guys have been able to do it, and some of the places you've coached, you guys haven't been able to make that make that turn. In your opinion, what are the factors that what is the difference between being able to really take a program that's kind of down in the dumps and start building it back up and turn that corner and get over that hump between and not getting that done? You've seen it on both ends. What are those pieces that if you were a head coach, what are you focusing on to get that turnaround done?
yeah, obviously a lot of it falls in recruiting, right? And I think going to college, St. Joe, I think the class the class before me is really really strong and had some just guys where when I'm recruiting now, like you're trying to look for those traits that you saw in guys who ended up having great careers. Obviously, played their balls off and loved the game and stuff like that. Because I think in the long term that correlates, especially now when I think that it's harder and harder to find. Some guys just do football. I'm good at it, so I do it.
Right, right,
Versus like I know football maybe shouldn't be your identity and stuff like that, but you should take pride in what you do and care what coaches and your teammates think of you. I think I talk to my guys at least about like I think it's sometimes not cool to care about stuff as much, right? Because if you care and you fail, then people are gonna try and clown you, right? But what are those people actually doing with their lives? I don't
right.
know. That's where I try and get to ask the guys and do mental exercise with some of that stuff. Like, do you actually care about what you're doing in this next? There's people in my own family where it's like, yeah, you're playing a Division II school, like it doesn't matter this, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it does to me.
Right.
That's just life in a nutshell. It's like what's important is kind of dependent on the person, right? So yeah, definitely at St. Joe, I think it was a lot the players and the coaches held a standard and weren't wavering from that. So and we just kind of bought into the fact that yeah, we have less than other people, but we're gonna, kind of make it our thing, right? Um, Same thing at the next school. It's a team that never had a winning season and made some changes uh with recruiting and attacking JUCOs a little bit there. Um, but even then, like I think the common denominator with a lot of the schools that struggle and you go to is the resources and support, right? Where without getting too much into like staff compensation and facilities and stuff like that, the school I went to was in Iowa, but then practiced in Nebraska and played their games in South Dakota. Like just that kind of stuff from administration where it's like you say it out loud and like that's ridiculous. Yeah, it is. So we changed that. Like all of our stuff started happening in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we recruited hard, and I think we got lucky with some of the staff because the GAs weren't getting paid well and stuff like that, and got lucky with having some good coordinators and good GAs that were able to put a good year around or a year together. So and a lot of it came from having better players and finding those guys and going after them hard. And maybe they're out of your area, maybe they're in your area. I know there's one guy in particular that I you just go and he's interested, he loves football, and all of a sudden hits a growth spurt coming into college, and you get lucky, right? That's
Mhm.
part of it too. It's just like dumb luck, but a lot of it, the more I've been at places, like a lot of it's administrative support and stuff like that. That's why like this place has administrative support and resources and stuff like that. So it's definitely been, easier for lack of a better term, but it's still it's a lot of the culture stuff then, and just getting guys to buy into
Yeah.
that, and the consistent work, and understanding that, as who was it, Hardman today was talking about the difference between the Chiefs and the Jets, where it's like guys take pride in, there's a lot more helmets on the ground at the Jets practices and stuff like that. And for whatever it's worth, it's just this guy's anecdote, but
Hmm.
being around winning programs versus the opposite, obviously I think shit correlates a little bit too. So
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I learned as a player is just have a standard, and when it starts to get met, raise it again. And make sure, I think that's what people want, challenges. I think guys want to be pushed,
Yeah.
is one of the big things that I enjoyed. And I always enjoy the analytics side of things and studies and different stuff like that, right? So we did a test developed by Tom Osborne back in the day, to measure motivation in players. We did that at Western, and because he found that Division I football players were on average more motivated to be successful than the average person. Like, they did this whole thing and were able to develop a test, to find out what motivated them. So then you could attack your players in the way that reaches them.
Hmm.
Or it would tell you like, hey, this guy's not very motivated. It's but it is rare, and it's very rare to see that in
Did you
the
guys ever
players
give that
at
test
that
to
level.
like recruits to see if those were the types of guys you'd want to bring in?
Yeah, we were definitely talking about it. It's
Hmm.
something that they made available. So that's
Yeah.
that's something that um it is right before I left. And obviously that class that we would have done it to is COVID, so it was all Zoom tests and stuff anyways.
Okay.
Um but it was definitely something we talked about, just to see if, like, personality wise, they would match up with our guys too.
Yeah. Right.
It's definitely something that I think, yeah, there's guys who are naturally gifted and maximize that and this and that, but as there's guys who are very physically gifted at Carthage or St. Joe or wherever, and why aren't they a Division I football player? It's
Hmm.
sometimes it can be, they're very motivated to maximize their ability. So
Right.
that was something I found very interesting through that process too. And I think it's something that you got to work on, especially at the lower levels, is just trying to find what motivates guys and what pushes them, and try and get the most out of them that way, because everyone's a little different.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last question here. Forward progress, that's what we call it. So I got to ask for you over the next month, 2 months or so, you're going to be getting into spring ball and things like that, I know. So for you, what's the priority for you? What do you want to see in the next month or two for you to be able to say, hey, we're making forward progress as an O-line unit or as a team at Catawba? What are you looking for over the next, month or two?
Next month or two, operationally want to go faster. Just having, again, that runs through the center's the conduit of the offensive line. So um, get the call from the quarterback and get the point out as quickly as possible, make sure all the calls are in and correct, right? I think there was times last year that certain guys in the line didn't know what was going on, or were asking, and it just kind of slowed stuff down. And, you know, definitely want to be able to say our operation time was quicker, as far as from when the quarterback says we have the type film. We can see when he says words. So, he says the words and you point it out and you get down, right?
Hmm.
And that's what one of the ways we're doing is, like, the center's going to stand up until he gets the point out and gets down. Then we know the communication should be done at that point. And we're going, right. For us, want more physicality up front, want to make sure that we're securing our combos and calling the correct combos out with the offensive line, and getting that push at the first level. Physicality, I think, was lacking at times, and part of that was also just confidence in what the play was, and what exactly the defense is presenting to you, and how you should attack that, right? Diagnose the crime scene, and go from there. So that's where I've been hammering for the last 6 weeks, just our install 1 and 2. I've probably had 12 hours of time where guys have just studied install 1 and 2. um and then when we get to spring ball, it's like, all right, cool, let's have our hour meeting and we should be able to hit the ground running. So
Right.
especially being the team that we are, like, that's 80% of our offense in the first 2 installs for the offensive line's purposes. So mastering that part of the playbook, I think, will be huge, because then we can start doing some of the change ups that I'd like to do with the offensive line. And yeah, physicality, communication, pace of play, and then specifically pocket integrity in from the tackles, specifically not turn their shoulders in pass pro, and hand placement, violent hand, strike and strain from our pass pro. So we were absolutely terrible at holding last year, and it just snowballs. We get a
Yeah.
couple, and then obviously, we're the team that holds. And granted, some of them were atrocious because the guys were just stopping their feet and grabbing on. It's like, brother, what are you doing? So, got to fix that. Got to fix that, man. Because there's a handful that could have gone either way, and because we're the team that holds, they didn't go our way. So, we talk about being smart football players and working to get that umpire on our side a little bit by not being jerks and, be a jerk between the whistle, of course. But at the end of the day, like, hey, what's up, Steve? Like it's gonna be the same rotating crew of umpires.
Right.
I
Get to
know
know
I
them.
knew all mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be bad. My senior year umpire definitely did talk shit to me because he thought we were buddies, and that pissed me off. But got beat on a pass rep, and he was like, "What happened there?" It's like he practices too, man. All right, like it happens. But at the end of the day, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, gotta limit the holds, man, and that's where just working different stuff there, working different indie drills. I'm always looking for um whether it's revolutionizing the indie drill we're doing or kind of taking the next step or what we can do there. I'm always trying to think of what to do next. It's something that I don't think the offensive line, there's definitely one way to do it as far as like you got to move the guy at the end of the day, right? You got to
Yeah.
move the
Right.
guy, you got to block the guy. That's the job at the end of the day. But I always am gonna try and find a way that reaches the guys. It might not be the right way. It might not be what the Twitter gurus say is right or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, I'm going to try different things to try and reach those guys. But the fundamentals and what I'm trying to get done is still the same. So, because I know that there's guys who, when you're just teaching, learn from visual, auditory, tactile, whatever it is. I think the same thing's true in indie drills where, all right, boards work for you guys, great. Boards don't work for you, also great. We'll take the boards away. I see there's pros and cons using boards. There's pros and cons of using big bags, small bags, whatever it is.
Just find out what works for your guys and
Yeah, I
what
think
get
I think there's
what
some.
gets the message across to them, right? That's really the
Yeah,
important thing.
yeah. For me, the biggest thing that I try and get out of indie drills is keep the guys as engaged as possible by getting a lot of reps or keeping as many guys involved with the reps as possible, which can be tough when I don't have a GA, right?
Hmm.
But that's one of the, that's elementary education 101, like keep the people engaged and going, right? So that's pretty much my philosophy as far as indie goes. But then also, how can you relate it to what we're doing or what we're bad at, this and that? I even asked the guys, like, what do you feel like you need to work on? Like, what haven't we done in a while that you would like to see again, and get their input too. So
Yeah.
so always looking to be ahead in the game in that, and just at the end of the day, we'll see on the film. But I just want to start crushing dudes' heads in. So gotta get lined up, gotta know what we're doing, and play as fast as possible at the end of the day.
For sure.
Again,
Awesome.
long story long.
Yeah, right. So awesome, man. Well, appreciate you jumping on again. Brian Collins, everyone, Catawba College. Watch out for their O line. They're doing some good things. They're turning it around. So expect some big things from you guys. Expect what, 300-400 yards on the ground next year?
Dude, that'd be nice. We had one 300-yard game.
Okay. Hey.
My PR was 497, so we'll see if we can hit that. I don't know if Coach Softcheck's on necessarily going to be on board with that. That was an anomaly, but
Whatever.
no,
Whatever
yeah,
you can do to win games, though, right?
no doubt, no doubt. Thanks for having me, man. Obviously, always a pleasure. So,
Uh,
do it again sometime.
yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. Thanks again.